Thank you for tuning in to Chompin at the Bucs. Episode 21. This episode, we're going to look at the Thursday Night Football matchup. I did say last episode I was going to look at NBA Finals game, but they put in an extra day, so the game isn't on Thursday as I thought when I said that. It's actually on Friday night, so I'll do Thursday Night Football this episode. Next episode, we'll look at the NBA Finals game. So with that, this Thursday night, we have the Bucs versus the Bears. Both teams come into this game at 3-1. So far in the early season, this is probably the best game they've had on Thursday night, at least on paper. Now, throughout this episode, we'll kind of dive into it to see if this is a matchup that you should want to watch, or if it just looks good on paper and then on the field it's probably gonna be a bad game. So with that, I'm gonna run through, get into the matchups of the game, and then we'll go through the keys for the Bucs and the Bears to give them the best chance to win. End of the episode, of course, I'll give you my pick for this game, because with my weekly picks, I always do the Thursday Night Football game first, and then I'll give you the rest of my picks later in the week in another episode when I, look at the rest of week 5. So let's go ahead and get started. I guess we'll look at the Bears first. Now with the Bears, I guess the question is, which Bears offense will we see in this game? So if you look at the Bears season so far, it's an interesting one to look at because, as you know, Mitchell Trubisky started the year. They won their first 2 games. They were 2-0. Everybody was wondering maybe Trubisky's starting to turn it around. They did take him. This was probably something that's going to linger over the Bears' head for a while. But they actually took Trubisky in the same draft where Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes were available. And it's still a question as to why the Bears actually decided on Trubisky. Because Trubisky went to University of North Carolina. He actually didn't start that many games for North Carolina, but the Bears saw something in him that they took him first overall. So, first 2 games he was performing well. Then the third game was the game with the Falcons, and he had a decent first half to the game. Third quarter, he was starting to struggle, holding the ball too long, making poor decisions on receivers he was throwing to. Then they found themselves down 16 points in the fourth quarter, and Matt Nagy, he made that decision that it's a tough one to do because Foles is their backup, and Foles' reputation has been throughout his career that he's a guy that he usually starts the year as your backup quarterback, but he's shown that he's reliable enough to run the team when you need him if the number 1 guy doesn't perform well. So, in Nick Foles fashion, he came into that game against the Falcons. They were down 16. And from the minute he stepped on the field, he had a great command of the offense. He was finding open receivers downfield, racking up points. He actually brought the Bears back in that game, and they overcame the deficit, won it, went to 3-0. So then he got his first start of the season last week against the Colts, and he struggled. They only scored 11 points. They lost that game 19-11, and now there's I guess an element to the Bears is a little bit heckle and jive. Jekyll and Hyde. Of course, that's what I meant. where, we could get the offense we saw in the fourth quarter, which was explosive, making big chunk plays on the field? Or do we get the offense against the Colts where they couldn't run the ball and Foles struggled to find open receivers? So that's one thing to look for in this matchup. But looking at last week when they did play the Colts, some of those struggles you have to give the Colts credit because, going into this week, the Colts actually have the number one defense in the league, which I was surprised to find out because, I knew the Colts defense was pretty good, but I didn't know that they were number one. And just a quick little teaching moment. When, they rank defenses, they usually look at points allowed. So based off points allowed is where you get your overall defensive ranking. So when I say the number one defense, they're actually the number one scoring defense in the league, giving up it's like 14.5 points per game. Modern era, where you have a lot of offenses that can put up a lot of points. A lot of the rules make it tough for defenses to really dominate. Giving up 14.5 points is incredible. So with that, the Foles and that offense struggles last week could be more a testament to the Colts' great defense more than maybe the Bears being inept on offense. So fast forward to this week against the Bucs. The Bucs have the 10th ranked defense. They give up about 18, 19 points a game. No, sorry about that. They give up 23. Yeah, 23 points a game. Yeah. Which even that, that's decent for a defense. But the Bears should have a little, more success this week against the Bucs. Because, once again, with the Colts are a top pass defense as well. They have pretty good corners who can cover man-to-man and make it tough for quarterbacks to find open receivers. The Bucs, on the other hand, their pass defense is a little bit sketchy. Because if you watched the game last week against the Chargers, Herbert was able to find guys downfield. He had a couple of big plays over the top. So as long as you can give your quarterback time, you can find open pockets in the Bucs defense. But the Bucs are great against the run. They're second in the league against the run. They only give 64 yards a game. And for me, if the Bears can establish a run, they don't have Tariq Cohen, who's their kind of all-purpose back, where, they can hand the ball off to him, but he's also a weapon in the passing game. They don't have him in this game, but they do have David Montgomery and Cordero Patterson, who's usually a wide receiver plus special teams guy, but with Cohen out, Patterson does play, good amount of plays in the backfield as a running back. So he's a bigger back, and as a receiver playing running back, he is pretty strong when he's running the ball. But the Bears will use him more for reverses or toss sweep type deal. And he's useful in the screen game since he's a wide receiver. Catching the ball in the backfield is natural to him. So he's a guy that if you get him in open space, he can make some plays. So the Bucs are going to have to look out for that defensively. Let me see what else we got here. The Bucs also found, a running back last week in Ronald Jones. He started the year with them, but he struggled a little bit, which kind of led to them getting Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette was hurt, and Ronald Jones had his best game of the the year last week. He ran for about 120 yards at about 5 yards a run. So, I mean, that's great numbers for a running back. You rush for anything over 4 yards a carry, then you're a productive back. Less than that, you have to do better. So if you're running for over 5 yards a carry, then you're pretty much dominant at that point. So if the Bucs can continue using Jones in the running game, then that makes their passing game open up even more. So the Bucs will be going up against the Bears defense, which is number 7 in the league. They give up little over 20 points a game. They have Khalil Mack on the defense, who can cause havoc by himself, as he can rush the quarterback. He can also disrupt your screen game, where he'll blow up the play before it even happens, because he can knife his way through the offensive line and get to the running back that you're trying to throw it to. He can also get to the quarterback, cause deflections. He'll try to strip sack, get a turnover that way. So the Bucs are going to have to key in on Khalil Mack and make sure that they are accounting for him when they drop back to pass or try a slow developing running play. So, in that matchup, it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, can the Bears get creative offensively, whether it's with Patterson in the backfield or coming up with schemes in the passing game to get Allen Robinson open downfield, as he's their top receiver. But they also have Anthony Thomas as their second wide receiver on the field, and the two of them work well together. They can make big plays downfield. They also can make tough catches over the middle. If you get them the ball with some space, they can get yards after catch. And like I said, with the Bucs secondary, there's plays to be made out there as long as Foles finds the right guy and doesn't turn the ball over. So, I guess looking at that, we'll jump into my keys for each team. So, with the Bucs, we'll start there. The Bucs have, I think I mentioned this earlier, Ronald Jones. He'll be a key for them offensively, as if he can continue to be productive in the run, it opens up the passing game. Sidestep. I meant Anthony Miller for the Bears, not Anthony Thomas. Anthony Miller is the other wide receiver. But Ronald Jones, if he can keep the offense on schedule, by that I mean, you get 1st and 10. A lot of teams will run the ball on 1st down. If he can get you to 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, then your playbook opens up even more, because you can either run the ball again on 2nd down, you can do a straight pass on 2nd down, maybe do play action pass, try to catch the defense off guard. So Ronald Jones will be an important part to getting the offense going. Second, this is for the defense. Make Nick Foles uncomfortable, because if you don't get pressure on Nick Foles and you just leave him back there, he's a good enough quarterback where he will find the open man, and he has a decent enough arm to get the ball downfield. So he can create big plays offensively. In terms of scrambling, he doesn't do it a lot, but he can do it a little bit. So if you blitz him, but the rest of your defense isn't paying attention, he will scramble a little bit and pick up like a cheap 1st down to keep the chains moving. Then the third key for the Bucs will be, it's a simple one: contain Khalil Mack. Little easier said than done, as he's a guy that you can line up as a linebacker, you can put him kind of on the end of the defensive line and have him play a little defensive end, try to get to the quarterback. And also, as I said, in your screen game, if you try to set it up and you don't get a block on Mac, he can blow up your screen game easily. And if you try to single cover him or not account for him, he can get into the backfield, strip sack the quarterback, create easy turnovers, and then the worst thing would be to give Foles like a short field, have him score some touchdowns early, and then get confidence going. Then the offense will look even better. I guess an additional key for the Bucs is, with their offense being so diverse. With that, I mean, they don't just have like one wide receiver that they target all the time or a tight end. They have multiple weapons on the receiving core. Like they have Mike Evans, who was a little bit hobbled last week. We'll have to see how he looks starting the game off. I believe Godwin is out for this game, as he's kind of had an injury plague start to the season. But then outside of Mike Evans, you have Rob Gronkowski, even though he hasn't been a big factor in the passing game so far. You figure at some point he's going to have a game where he can get, 5-6 catches, maybe a touchdown, like 50, 55 yards through the air. They also have Cameron Brate, another tight end that they use. They actually have a third tight end in O.J. Howard. They have it's the wide receiver that not a lot of people know. So if you remember Brady from New England, his favorite receiver was Julian Edelman, kind of a smaller slot receiver who kind of just found pockets in like defensive zones, and Brady felt real comfortable getting him the ball, pretty often. So now that he's down in Tampa, he's found, I guess, his new version of Julian Edelman with, what's his name? Scotty Miller. Yes, that's his name. His name slipped me for a second. But Scotty Miller's a guy that the Bears are going to have to look at, because if you pay too much attention to Mike Evans or Gronkowski or anything like that, Brady will just throw it to Scotty Miller. He's actually the leading receiver on the team so far. But, in terms of receiving yards. So the Bucs do have a lot of weapons for the Bears to have to cover, but I guess leading into the Bears' keys, one way to definitely counter a team with a lot of weapons is to get pressure on the quarterback. So if the Bears can get pressure up the middle on Tom Brady, then you can knock him off schedule. And he's not a scrambler, so Brady can move around in the pocket, but in terms of being a running threat, he's not really much of a running threat unless it's, like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. He'll call a quarterback sneak for himself. And he's really good at that, but in terms of, if you keep them in 3rd and long, like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, you don't have to worry about Brady running for a first down unless, play completely breaks down, defensive backs have their back to him, then he can get you a first down. But like I said, Bears need to get pressure on Brady to slow down the passing game. Another key for the Bears is going to be Foles. Foles has to play the way he did against the Falcons, not so much the way against the Colts. So the Falcons game, like I said, is finding Anthony Miller and Robinson downfield, making big plays. He should be able to do that against this Bucs team if he makes the right decision and the line gives him time. So the third key for the Bears is get an established running game. They struggled to run the ball against the Colts last week, which then forced them to be somewhat one-dimensional and pass the ball more than they wanted to. And with the Colts having a great pass defense, it didn't work. Bucs pass defense isn't as good as the Colts defense, but if any offense becomes one-dimensional, it makes it easier for a defense to game plan against them. So if the Bucs come out, and like I said, the Bears don't have Cohen, but they have Montgomery and Patterson that they use in the backfield. If they can't establish any run game, then it'll just make the passing game tougher because they won't have to commit, more people around the line of scrimmage to stop the run. If the Bucs feel like they could stop the run with just their D lineman and like a linebacker, then that puts 6-7 guys out in passing defense. So it's gonna be harder to find those pockets for Foles to make plays. So there's your three keys for the Bucs, the Bears. So ultimately, with all that, I'm sure what you're thinking is who's going to win this game. So coming into the game, Bears are the home team. They're actually a 5.5-point underdog in this game. So this is a game that, like I said, I had to pick it because it's the Thursday night game. Other than that, it might not have been a game that I would have used in my weekly picks because I can see this game going a couple of ways. But I think the Bucs should be able to win by at least a touchdown in this game. So, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking Bucs win this game 31-23 Bucs. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, 31-23 Bucs. I'm thinking Brady has 2 touchdown passes. Ronald Jones has a rushing touchdown. Then they get some field goals in there, but I think the Bears will be able to put some points up on the board. So I expect, I think Anthony Miller's going to have a big game because I'm guessing the Bucs might key in on Robinson. So if Miller, it's going to be on Miller to get open and, make himself available for Foles. So like I said, I'm thinking 31-23 Bucs. But it should be, like I said, probably the best Thursday night game so far on the schedule. And should be wildly entertaining game. Definitely more entertaining than last Thursday's game, which was Jaguars versus Jets. This game should be way more entertaining. So with that, that kicks off week 5 of the NFL season. And as I said in the beginning, I just focused on Thursday Night Football in this episode. Later on in the week, take a look at the Thursday night, Monday night games. As of right now, we're not going to have 2 Monday night games like we did last week, but you never know because they've had 2 Monday night games last week because of the Patriots. And if you didn't hear, the Patriots had a second positive test with Stephon Gilmore, so he's definitely out this week. Now, I don't know if that's something where maybe they push the Patriot game to a Monday or maybe even like a Tuesday again this week, because the Patriots haven't practiced all week, I don't believe. And it's a question as to whether they'll get to practice Thursday or Friday. So if they don't get to practice by Friday, they most likely won't play on Sunday. They'll probably push it Monday or Tuesday again. So either way, by the time I get to the next episode, we'll definitely probably know by then whether the game will be Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. So the way it's looking, should be just one Monday game this week. But yes, that's my preview. Thursday Night Football. So like I said, just get you set up for the rest of the week. I will do episode on Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Now, depending on how that goes, if there is a Game 6, then of course I'll have a Game 6 episode later in the week as well. If not, if the finals end with Game 5, then, that'll probably end NBA coverage for a little bit. Transition to probably some college football content. But I'll definitely let you know once that comes around what I'll do. But yeah, so like I said, picking the Bucs over the Bears 31-23. Hopefully it's the first pick in another big week for me. Past 2 weeks went 4-2, so hopefully I can get started with this one 1-0 on my way to another big week. So with that, good place to end the episode. As I say, if you're new and you like what you heard, which I hope you did, definitely hit the like button, or you can subscribe, follow. That way, whenever I drop episodes, get them right away. Wherever you listen to podcasts should be there. Well, actually not everywhere, because it's not on like Audible or I think Amazon Music yet. But recently was made available on iHeartRadio. So like I said, if you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, just search Chompin at the Bit podcast and make sure you listen. And for those of you who've been with me, appreciate you as well. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll definitely catch you next episode. All right.